did research on the work of Henry Melchior Muhlenberg, who was sent out from Halle in the year 1741 to care for the Lutheran immigrants to Pennsylvania for only 3 years. But he was so engaged in his work and he felt so much responsible for this new task that he stayed here his whole life. But when he first came to America, he had to stop by at the Salzburger settlements in Georgia, because back in Halle, the Halle fathers thought that here the real good advisors for Muhlenberg could be. And this is the reason why I'm also a little bit involved in the history of the settlements of the Ebenezer. I came as a research student to Halle 25 years back, and then I got stuck there because the wall came down and East Germany became part of the Federal Republic of Germany, and everything changed very dramatically also in the city where I'm living now in Halle. And by the time I became the head archivist there in the Franke institutions, and since 2003 I have the honor to be the head of the Franke institutions, and I invite everybody here to come to Halle and to see the Franke institutions, and some of you already have been there and the rest of you should come soon. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. Since this is not my mother tongue, as you can easily realize, please forgive me that I wrote down my speech on a manuscript. First of all, I want again bring you warm greetings from the Franke Foundations in Halle. I'm delighted that I might be here today with you on this festive occasion, and thank you for the invitation and for your hospitality, which I have now been able to experience frequently over the past 20 years, and by which I'm always so impressed. The South of the United States is well known for warmth towards its guests, and we can be sure that the Georgia Salzburgers has also contributed to shaping this special attitude. You invited me here because we, and by we I mean Americans and Germans in general, and the Georgia Salzburger Society and the Franke Foundations in particular, are connected with each another through a long common history. Through the diverse activities of the Georgia Salzburger Society, you are keeping this interest in your own history alive. Through events such as this annual Labor Day meeting in New Ebenezer, history is brought to life before our eyes, through the exhibits in your museum, as well as the wonderful historical costumes and the famous lemonade, of course, made according to your ancestors' recipe. Through all of these means, this historic spot, which you have so caringly reconstructed and maintained as a retreat center over there, is filled with life and reminds us all at every turn of the origins of the Salzburger settlements in Georgia. 280 years ago, on March 12, 1734, the first transport with Lutherans from Salzburg reached the port of Savannah. It is difficult to conceive of the hard times which the new arrivals had already experienced by that time. Several years of flight and displacement had already preceded them. This all had its inauspicious beginning with the emigration edict of Firmian, Archbishop of Salzburg, on October 31 in 1731. Within a short period, all residents of the Archdiocese of Salzburg who belonged to the Lutheran Church were forced to leave their homeland. They had to move away from a place where Most had dwelt for generations, where their homes and property were located, where they tilled the fields with their own hands and ran their mills and workshops. They had to leave the places where their traditions were rooted and leave behind the things with which they identified and which they were proud of. With little more than they could carry on their backs or fit on a cart, they set forth into a fully uncertain future. Tens of thousands of refugees faced immeasurable suffering. For all of them, this exodus was accompanied by physical deprivations of all kinds, not to mention the emotional anguish. For many of them, the exertion of emigrating cost them their lives. The only charges that could be counted against them were their religious convictions, their different kind of Christian faith, shaped by Martin Luther and the Augsburg Confession. We are speaking of a time when scores of wars were waged throughout Europe due to religious differences between Catholic and Protestant Christians. Among these conflicts was the 30 Years' War from 1618 to 1648, an entire generation enveloped the whole continent in barbarous fashion, costing countless lives and leaving entire regions as wastelands for decades to come. We are also speaking of a time in which the political maps of Europe and the world had been formed by antagonism between Catholic and Protestant dominions, pervaded by deep rifts on both sides. This is the political atmosphere in which the Salzburg Emigration Edict was generated. The stream of Lutheran refugees from the Salzburg region initially poured off into southern Germany, before then branching out into numerous tracts throughout Germany and neighboring countries. News of the largest refugee crisis of the 18th century spread out rapidly. A large wave of solidarity with their fellow believers and a willingness to help arose among Protestants. Several of the tracts of Salzburg refugees managed to reach the affluent and free imperial city of Augsburg. There they were well received through the charitable disposition of the residents. The senior Lutheran pastor in Augsburg, Samuel Olsberger, went to special lengths to care for the Salzburg refugees. Olsberger paved the way for many thousands of them to be able to find refuge in Prussia. We already heard of that by Jürgen Schröter. They were settled predominantly in distant East Prussia, where wide stretches of land were still depopulated from the 30 Years' War. They received all possible benefits in order to alleviate their new start. At the time, Prussia was enacting a far-sighted immigration policy, which is exemplary even today. This immigration policy not only brought Prussia the reputation of being an especially tolerant land, but also laid an important foundation for its economic ascent, especially through the settlement of these predominantly very well-skilled Salzburgers. As we know, things took a similar course here in Georgia. Once again, Samuel Olsberger played a decisive role. His wide-ranging ties extended to London, where he had worked several years between 1705 and 1712 as a pastor at the German Lutheran congregation, and had established contact with some key figures there. Among other activities, he became a corresponding member of the influential Anglican Society for Promoting Christian Knowledge, shortly SPCK. He used these relationships to the benefit of the refugees. In 1732, he sent a report on the plight of the Salzburg Lutherans to London. This report was published in Gentleman's Magazine and sparked considerable attention. The political circumstances surrounding particularly favorable, for at the time Germany and Great Britain were closely interconnected. In the year 1714, exactly 300 years ago, the Elector of Hanover, the German Lutheran, ascended the English throne as George I, thereby becoming the most powerful man in the world. In doing so, he had automatically become head of the Anglican Church, being a Lutheran, becoming the head of the Anglican Church. Since, however, he had retained his Lutheran faith, he appointed his own Lutheran court preachers who enabled him to retain his familiar religious practice in his native tongue. The first of these court preachers had been Anton Wilhelm Böhme, whom Ulsberger knew personally, followed by Friedrich Michael Ziegenhagen, who then served in this extremely important position for half a century. As court preacher, Ziegenhagen had direct and personal access to the English king, to the most powerful man of the world, and was in a position to exert decisive influence on the settlement of the Salzburger Lutherans in Georgia. Out of motives similar to those in Prussia, in England the Salzburgers were also seen as welcomed immigrants to settle the colony of Georgia, which had only recently been founded, as you know. They were considered well-educated, industrious, and dependable. The trustees of the colony promoted immigration with special benefits such as land grants and free provision for several years, as well as exemption from the taxes. Moreover, they promised the Salzburger religious freedom and, together with the SPCK, provided for Lutheran pastors with whom the Salzburgers should leave for Georgia, thus safeguarding their familiar religious practice in the new environment. Initially, the pastors' salaries were covered by the SPCK. Ulsberger, in turn, took on the selection of the pastors, and after just a short time found the right personalities in Johann Martin Bolzius from the Lusatia region in Saxony, and Israel Christian Gronau from a village near to the city of Halberstadt. I do not need to comment on the exceptional degree in which these two men contributed over time to the success of the entire undertaking. They proved themselves to be good theologians and benevolent ministers, as men of pietous devotion and impeccable lifestyles, enabling them to serve as examples to their congregation. At the same time, they had both feet firmly planted on the ground. Bolzius in particular became a coordinator for the entire settlement. He possessed a clear business sense and had some economic experience. He represented the settlers' interest among the official authorities with both diplomacy and persistence, but above all else, with a great sense of responsibility for the people who had been entrusted to his care. He was instrumental to ensuring the sustained success of the Salzburger settlement in Georgia. When the colony was in danger of failing, initially since an unsuitable location had been chosen, and later when in 1736 the pre-provision guarantee to the settlers was set to expire, Bolzius and Gronau sent extensive reports to Europe on the events and ongoing problems. In response, Ziegenhagen, the Lutheran court preacher in London, lobbied the trustees for additional support. In 1737, the pastors also commissioned the construction of the first orphanage in North America. Not until 1741, 7 years after their arrival, could they erect a church for the congregation, the predecessor of the beautiful building in use today. Besides superintending the devout Christian life of their congregation, the pastors also put special emphasis from the very beginning of their tenure on founding schools. The special character of the Salzburger settlement in Ebenezer attracted considerable admiration among contemporary observers. George Whitfield was one of Ebenezer's well-known guests, showing himself to be impressed by its special spirit and even adopting it as a model for his own activities. At the same time, however, Ebenezer's success was by no means assured. Especially in its early years, it was encumbered and its very survival even jeopardized by both wrong directive from its colonial rulers and competition with English settlements in the colony. And thus it is worth taking a closer look what ultimately contributed not only to preventing the failure of this daring enterprise, but also enabling its long-term success. Of course, we know what a strong influence the 18th century Franco foundations exerted on the foundation and development of Ebenezer. We know that Bolzius and Gronau were both shaped by Halle pietism, from which they drew their special piety with their closeness to the Bible and their great trust in God. And these were doubtless strong foundations which enabled them to set off into a completely uncertain future and into situations which would put their lives even into danger. We must clearly recognize, however, that the pressures facing the Salzburger settlers were not the same forces driving Bolzius and Gronau. In all probability, the settlers would not have voluntarily left everything behind and set forth from their homeland in Austria in order to rebuild their entire lives, starting from scratch at the other end of the world. But precisely this can be said of Bolzius and Gronau. In normal circumstances, after completing their theological studies, they would have had the prospect of taking up a quiet parsonage somewhere with a secure livelihood in their homeland and with close proximity to their families. The fact that they instead chose to the voyage to North America was essentially linked with the formative influence that Halle pietism and the Franke foundations had on them. What does this mean? At the end of the 17th century, August Hermann Franke had started right outside Halle's city gates a social and educational reform movement which was focusing on a Christian betterment on the entire world. Toward this cause, Franke first established a large orphanage and then founded new schools for children of all social classes. As tutors and teachers, he appointed students from the Halle University, where he taught as a professor. By the time of his death in 1727, an entire school town had arisen with scores of new buildings in which up to 2,500 children were taught and nurtured by several hundred student teachers. Many pupils lived on site together with their tutors. There was a library, a cabinet of curiosities, botanic gardens, telescopes for astronomical observation, and an agricultural operation with bakery and brewery, a pharmacy, a hospital for the students, everything state of the art. 300 years ago, Franke was already thinking in global context. From his very inception, the Franke foundations were thus both a gateway to the world and a hub of news from around the world. With its base in Halle, the first Protestant mission was founded in 1706 as Franke sent theologians to South India. In those days, they were speaking in Halle of East India, as the India today, and West India, about America. The experience of this missionary endeavor would later prove to be of great advantage to the settlers in Georgia. Samuel Olsberger was already closely integrated into the Halle network. He had visited Franke in Halle on several occasions and maintained lifelong contact with the Franke foundations. It was to Halle that he immediately sent a report right after the wave of refugees emanated out of Salzburg. Thus, the authorities in Halle were able to call upon the government in Berlin to take in thousands of religious refugees in Prussia. Ulsberger then went on to contact Halle when he was seeking suitable pastors for the first transport of Salzburgers to North America. The pastors from Halle were known in those days for being not only good theologians, but also possessing practical training and a broad perspective formed through Halle's worldwide network. These characteristics apply to Bolzius and Gronau. Both had, alongside their theological studies, also gained practical experience in Franke's schools. Bolzius had even been deputy inspector of the Latin school, a position in which he was tasked with special organizational duties. Besides teaching, he was also charged with guiding other teachers and fulfilling administrative responsibilities. In Halle, Bolzius and Gronau acquired important skills that they later vitally contribute to the success of the Salzburger settlement in Georgia. These included both interpersonal skills and leadership experience, as well as organizational experience and the handling of financial matters. And finally, the communication skills, which they learned there, and above all, the use of various communication techniques can hardly be ranked high enough as factors in their success. When they had to function on their own in Georgia, proper communication with their European benefactors was of existential importance. From Europe, they received donations of money, books, and medicine, as well as assistance with staff and, last but not least, counsel in all important matters. It is thus not surprising that before their departure, Bolzius and Gronau received extensive and detailed instruction on how they should maintain contact with Halle and Europe and London as well. Halle, London, Oxford, they were the main spots in Europe where they had to stay in contact with. They were instructed to keep up a diary with frequent entries. In this diary, one of them would record the latest events on a daily basis. From time to time, the other one would supplement these records with his own notes. Noteworthy features of the land and people in America should also be recorded and reported on. The pastors were obliged to send their reports to Halle and London at frequent intervals. In Halle, the handwritten diaries were issued as printed reports. Here, experience from the India mission was incorporated. Since 1709, a journal had been created from the reports sent from India, primarily in order to raise donations. In Georgia, around 25 years later, the same model was followed. The funds raised in Europe were channeled to the final destinations in India and in North America via the reliable transit network which the Franke Foundations had at ready disposal. However, no cash was sent. That would have been much too risky and unsecure, at least due to fluctuations in the exchange rate. Rather, with the money collected on behalf of Georgia in Halle, an equivalent value of books and medications produced directly by the Franke Foundations were sent to North America and then resold locally. In this manner, Ebenezer was able to benefit from the financial support from Europe in a fairly reliable manner. On the other side, through this arrangement, the Halle institution was able to open up a new market for its products. Today, tens of thousands of handwritten reports and exchanges between Halle and partners in India and North America fill the mission archives of the Franke Foundations. They document the high degree of systematic structure with which transatlantic communication was organized in a time when the telephone and internet were still centuries away. The key figures in London were also of essential importance for the global Halle communication network. The German preachers in the court of the English king were also pietists who had also studied in Halle before and had been influenced by Franke's ideas and works. In London, Ziegenhagen ensured, first of all, that both correspondence and shipment of goods were passed on smoothly between Halle and Georgia. Secondly, his house was a secure hub for missionaries who were being sent overseas from Germany. Through his position, through Ziegenhagen's position, he had the best contact in all important circles of English society which he could influence. Preußes and Gronau carried over their experience in Halle to the settlement in Ebenezer. In light of this, and fully in the spirit of August Hermann Franke, a strong educational system was especially important to them. Thus, from the very beginning, they paid special attention to creating functioning schooling in the colony. It had already been stipulated in Halle that they should instruct the youth of the settlement not only in religious matters, but also in reading, writing, and arithmetic. They were also expected to incorporate the adults in their instruction. Right at their departure, they were equipped with a good number of hymnals and Bibles, but also children's reading primers from the orphanage press, and they were instructed to order more books as needed. They were also asked to immediately scout among the Salzburgers to see who might be installed as a schoolmaster. Ladies and gentlemen, there is considerable evidence that the influence of Halle Pietism contributed significantly to the success of the Salzburger settlement in Georgia. The theological mindset of Pietism, as well as Franke's organizational and institutional vision, proved themselves uniquely in the pioneer context of Ebenezer. Above all, however, the well-functioning global network centered on the Halle orphanage and its collaboration with Augsburg and London did not leave Ebenezer as an isolated experiment, but an integrated component of a large and well-structured community. This community spanned several continents, pursuing the same goals and mutually supporting its members spiritually, logistically, and materially. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friend, I'm personally thankful that out of this impressive historical network from the 18th century, such close and friendly relation between the Georgia Salzburger Society and the Frank Foundations have been regenerated today. For this, we largely have to thank committed individuals such as Vincent Exley and Ann Purcell, to name just two of the many friends and partners on the American side. Ann advocated for the solidification of our venerable bond at the highest political level here in Georgia. Thus, the new sister city partnership between Savannah and Halle was established, which we inaugurated in October 2011, 3 years ago, with both mayors of Halle and Savannah present. With Vincent Exley, I have a personal friendship going back 20 years. We met in 1994 at the Goethe Institute in Atlanta. I don't know if you remember that, Vince. I do very vividly. While the Franke Foundations were displaying a small exhibit there. The Goethe Institute in Atlanta doesn't exist anymore, but our friendship does. Since then, Vince has completed several book projects for the Georgia Salzburger Society in collaboration with the Franke Foundations, and has just launched a new project this year about the letters of the last important Lutheran pastor in Ebenezer with the name of Bergman. I would like to express my personal thanks to you, Vince, for all of this. My gratitude also goes out to Gary Nisi, the president of the Georgia Salzburger Society, who had to unexpectedly assume this important position this year and has diligently worked to ensure the continuity of its work and its contact with Halle. Franke's school town still exists today, and it's worth to visit it. After a turbulent historical period, the Franke Foundations, with around 50 historic buildings, are once again present on a flourishing campus with several dozen cultural, scholarly, educational, and social institutions involving today more than 4,000 individuals. And to add this, when I came 25 years back, the first time to the Franke Foundations, it was a completely ruined, and nobody lived there anymore. So it's like a miracle that it was possible to revive this tradition-full institution. Franke's educational ideas and approach to reform has come to life again in Franke Foundations of today, and is able to bear new fruits for society through numerous projects and initiatives adapted to modern times. Likewise, the close connection between the Franke Foundations and the descendants of Salzburger Lutherans still lives on today and extends here to America, as well as to the partner Salzburger Society in Bielefeld, whose enormous and highly successful volunteer initiative I also greatly admire, Jürgen Schröder. Just as real as these century-old ties of friendship have been, so important are the lessons which we must draw from this 18th century refugee crisis. For sadly, there are more refugees in the world today than ever before, and from time immemorial, scarcely any topics have evoked so much fear and terror among people as those of flight and displacement. The exodus of the Salzburg Lutherans exemplifies for us how a society can greatly benefit when it creates the right framework for, let me say, managed immigration. This is clear from the examples of the Salzburger settlements in Prussia as well as in Georgia. Here in the United States of America, you have successfully developed this over the centuries. Also in this regard, we in Europe can learn from you. And so the historical events which transpired 280 years ago now offer us numerous indications as to how we might draw the right conclusions from history in order to shape our shared present and future. Toward this end, it is vital to continually engage one's own history. The history of the Salzburger refugees who reached this continent in the 18th century and began their new lives here teach us to humbly pay our respects to the achievements of our ancestors. Thank you very much. Gary Nisi, I would like to bring you a present from our historical library and archives. When I started there as an archivist, we found in a very ancient wooden cabinet some original cover prints with the portrait of August Hermann Franke. And I would like to give you one copy of that, original from the 18th century, for your museum. I hope it survived today. It's in here. Yeah, this face looks familiar. So this is a copper plate, comes from the early 18th century, and this is a donation from the Franke Foundation for your museum and for the friendly relationships between our two institutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope this program was good for everyone to hear. You know, we were an engine Georgia Saltburger Society wants and will continue to work with you, all of you. It is in all of our best interests. So I am very thankful that all of you came for this 280th celebration. Could you give a round of applause for our Next on the agenda is excuse me? Oh. This is Cynthia. UT's from Oklahoma.
I greet you this morning, this afternoon, with much reverence and humbleness. I'm really honored to be here on your ground. And I was fortunate to get to be here in 2010. And at that time, we had an elder with us. And her name was Ann Holder. And, but we just lost her in December. And so she meant a lot to us. And she really loved the Salzburgers. After the time she came and visited, she spoke of you often. And even in her prayers, she would mention you because you were so kind to her. And the way you greeted her and treated her was very, very nice. And so I brought a calendar that the UT Language Project developed for this year, 2014, in which they dedicated it to Anne. And there's a few words in the back that I'd like to share with you. And I'll read this with you. It's in memoriam of Ann Holder. And in it, we have some phrases that I won't read the YouTube part, I'll just read the English part. Ann lived her life in a good way. There was no other person like her. She always helped with each language word. She said, our UT language will not die. We really loved her. Ann was a bright light here at the Language Project. Her loving spirit and vast knowledge of UT history and culture was a great gift to us for many years. She was truly a part of our family. And her positive attitude was unlike any other. She said many times when she woke up, she looked forward to coming to class to support the language and to be with her UT people. We too look forward to seeing her smiling face and being encouraged by her affirmation. Her generosity and enthusiasm was contagious. And many times the financial struggle or other challenges we face, she remained steadfast. She prayed for us many times, and she believed that God was blessing our UT people. She said that God gave us UT people our own unique language. She said that if we lose our language, we lose our identity as UT people. She was our mentor and a great leader for us, the UT language. She served for the past couple of years as a board member for the UT Language Project. She will be greatly missed. As an example of her positive leadership and passion for the UT language, she wrote the following affirmations that the children learn and use in their daily classes. She said many times, today I am alive. It is good that I am here. I get to do a lot of good work for God. I have a lot to be happy about. God is blessing us, UT people. God is always standing close to us, and our UT language will not die. And she used these words when she came because she thought that we all prayed together and that the Salzburgers was good people who have been here this long, as long as she has. We're very thankful to be here with your 280th anniversary. And we look forward to sharing with you our culture and traditions, which we try to maintain and preserve. And I'd like to just leave with what we say in our language. Please go ahead. And then what we've been told about the Yuchi language. The Yuchi language is not related to any other dialect. It's a language isolate and in danger of being extinct. And there are 5 hotspots in the world that linguists are watching because they're afraid of the endanger of that language. And the Yuchi language is one of those 5 in the world. It's the only one in North America that the linguists are really concerned about at this time. Thank you very much. Silence.
At 2 p.m. And she also has other support. I encourage you to talk to all of our major guests, the UC, the Germans, all of them. They have a lot to offer.
One of the phrases that Anne would say would be "Cenote Yule." We really love her.
Okay, for the Conley Contest awards, I've misplaced for some reason, the contestants. I'm going to read them though. So if you let me know if you can't hear this. Alina Kramer, Mary Morgan, Mallory Morgan, Courtney Purcell, Libby Knight, Kate Thomas, Taylor Kramer, Claire Thomas, and Claudia Christensen. We thank you for these. Everyone is a winner. The theme was to try and offer us objectivity on the part of the person from Hala to us today. So it gave them a wide-ranging set of talents. They're immigrants. The trade that they had, as you can understand from today, you're starting a whole new thing, like sending someone really to the moon anyway, with not much infrastructure, except they don't have Indians. We had them for greatness, really. So it's really good to see the synergy of everything coming together with this and continuing on. In that light, what I'd like to do is, at this point, share a few things that society is doing, mainly from the board and the officers. So Cheryl, Vince, Don, if you could just speak a couple of moments on what we've been doing.
My name is Cheryl Oglesby-Howell. I became curator of the museum in March when Aunt Martha retired. And it's been an exciting opportunity the last several months that I've been working in the museum. I'll just share a couple of facts with you here recently. We have had over 375 visitors since I started in March, and they've come as far from Texas, Minnesota, Mississippi, Kansas, New York. I'm always amazed at the people that travel to our museum, especially on a big day, which is on a Wednesday, that I see a lot of people that come in, as well as our visitors from Germany and as our visitors from Oklahoma that we have. are wonderful, and I am so blessed to have a fantastic volunteer staff. And they have logged over 650 hours working in the museum. I got introduced very quickly. I got a phone call one Sunday afternoon at 12 o'clock, and it said, "You need to come open the museum." And I went, "Okay, I usually open the museum." And it was very hush-hush, and "I can't tell you who's coming, but somebody's coming, and I need you there to open the museum." Well, whoever called me knew that they were coming for a while. I didn't know until 12 o'clock. So I arrived at 12. Vince is there, Ann Purcell is all there, and the State Patrol were there. And I went, "Ooh, who's here?" Our governor, Nathan Deal, showed up, and with his wife Sandra, and they toured the museum. We offered Nathan Deal an application for membership to the Salzburger Society, but we still haven't heard from him as of yet. So, November's coming, so we may make another introduction again, phone call to him as well. The museum has been busy with some cleanup. We had a work day at the museum, and then we shared lunch together. We kind of had a bonding moment, if you want to call it that, together with the staff. We also have a new sidewalk that has been placed in due to the efforts of Patsy Ziegler, the assistant curator. She's been hard at work at doing that. So please come by, check it out. Ebenezer Alive is beginning to start up again in September. We had 6 groups that visited in March, April, and May while I was there. And I got a call from Beth that says, "Get ready, your calendar is beginning to get full again." So we will have middle schoolers and 5th graders that will be coming to the museum during the course of the week. But please feel free to call anytime. We'll open it up for you to visit, without a doubt. I forgot one important person. Ms. Purcell, I just saw you in the rear. The next important visitors were from Nigeria and Brazil. I got a phone call from Ann that said the council from Brazil and Nigeria were going to visit as well. They were so appreciative. They were so very thankful that the Salzburger Society preserved the heritage. They had never been in an environment where the heritage was so preserved. So to that, we were extremely appreciative. So as you can see, we're very, very busy. Come join us. I'll be glad to put you to work. Thank you.
Barbara Scott and Arlene and Henry Bengelbar all work on the committee and work with me. And Barbara and Farlene have even made 2 research trips, Farlene 1, Barbara 2, in which we have actually gone to some of the places that our ancestors originated. And it was very fascinating. We went in October of 2012 to the Gastein, where the Riza family originated down south of Salzburg in the land of Salzburg. And our current project will be volume 4 in the series of books that we're publishing, will be on the Neidlinger family. I was to have it ready today, but I've had some health issues that sort of slowed me down a little bit. I had a couple of bumps in the road this summer. But the book is now finished, and it will be available in the museum bookstore in November. I'm sorry, October, probably about the second week.
And the details are there.
And yeah, and there's a information, the cover title of the Neidlinger book, and a list of the contents. I found it very interesting. There's some interesting old church book records of the Neidlinger families long ago. A couple of the deaths that were reported in which the ministers cared enough to write more in the church books of the circumstances of
know by now, we, from the membership committee, have been going over the membership of the society. And to date, we have a list of 590 addresses that are no longer active. We want you to know that because we have a list out here at the table of welcome. And if you would so help us, we would be grateful for it by going over this list. And if you see anyone on there that you know that has died or are no longer active or any of that, would you please just take the list and note that so that we can get these addresses cleared up. Also, we are in the process of trying to make the membership more meaningful in the society. And we are trying to get a list of the members as they are active, trying to make it more active for them, and involving the members of the society in the society itself. We're working on the list, we're working on the membership, and also we are trying to increase the membership of the society. And if you're here today and you have not signed your name on the dotted line, we would like for you to do that today and go over to the genealogical table or the tent that is there by the museum and do that. We would be grateful for that. It will only cost you $25. Now, if you have let your membership lapse and you want to reactivate that, it will cost you $50. We're going to penalize you $25 for all the past years. We don't mean that in any mean way, but it's a gift to you. You can reclaim all those years for the dollar sign of $25, and then you can sign up for this year. We really would like to have all of our Salzburgers to be members of the society. So if you can, help us in that, and also involve your children, the young people, in the society. Let them grow up in the society and let it mean something to them. Now, Vince didn't mention something, and I'm going to mention it now. We are in the process also of publishing a new book with the Halle Foundation on the life and times of Johann Bergman, or Ernst Bergman, the last German pastor in Ebenezer. And that book is being worked on right now, and I think we have about 150 letters of his, and half of those have already been translated and are here. Pastor, or I should say Professor Russell Cleckley, who is a professor at Augsburg College in Minnesota, is translating those into English for us, and the translation from the Old German is being done in Holland. I forgot the name of the person who's doing the translation. Would you tell me?
It is Dr. Jürgen Gröschel, our head archivist.
Dr. Gröschel is doing that. And so we have that in process, and that will be out, and it will be a companion volume to the 2 volumes we had of the letters of John Martin Bosworth. So we'll have the letters of the pastors here. And it will be a prized possession, I'm sure, because it has a lot of the history of what went on after the Revolutionary War. And there's not much history available to those times. So you'll be getting that as it comes out. And when it comes out, it'll be a big event. Thank you, Gary.
Now I want to let Josh speak for a minute. The reason the grounds are in great shape, everything's good. we need to thank Josh for the facility the way it is now. From our perspective, together with Jerusalem.
For any of y'all that don't know me, I'm Josh Ziegler. I am the son of Keith Ziegler, our past presidents, and the grandson of Martha Ziegler. If you don't know Martha, well, you will. Give it time, you will. A couple things I heard mentioned earlier. We just had the sidewalk installed for the museum. That was becoming a concern with the trying to kind of come up with some future projects here. I'm making a little bit of gains here and there. If anybody has any suggestions or any concerns, just please come see me. Let me know. Because, like I said, there's plenty to do here. There is no shortage of things to work on these grounds. Also, one thing that I would like, and this is kind of along the lines of the church and the society, is going to be the amphitheater. As I know, many of you probably saw, the amphitheater is getting kind of rough. I'm in the process of getting some estimates now on having the erosion stopped or at least controlled for the time being. Because like I said, it's my understanding that the church did not have their Easter service there this past Easter because of it. Is that correct? So, anyways, but like I said, we still have our buildings to take care of, and any donations greatly help. The one big thing right now is the tractor. I'm sure a lot of y'all have seen the little green John Deere tractor I've been running around on here. Noble Boykin has been kind enough to let me borrow that up to now. Me and him are trying to come up with some kind of an agreement to work something out long term. Y'all cannot begin to understand how much I have gotten accomplished and done because of that tractor being on these grounds. What normally would have took me weeks of work doing, I can knock out in literally a day's time. Not to mention the fact, we got the mowing that needs to be done, what we do with it, and, it's got the front end loader, so I'm able to move dirt, filling a lot of holes around here, stuff like that. So, but anyways, I'd like to be able to move forward with that. And then lastly, I would just like to thank Noble Boykin for letting me borrow it up somehow. And Mr. Fletcher Waldauer, he let me borrow his bush hog the other day, a rotary mower, to do a lot of cutting out here. And then Jay Newrath, he's helped me a lot too. And of course my dad and a couple others. So, but anyways, that's all I got here.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and now I want to introduce you to Pastor Kirk. He is the president of the Atlanta chapter of our Georgia Saltburger Society. And they have an upcoming meeting at the end of September.
Thank you, Gary. An honor to be here, and I wanted to underscore words that have already been spoken about. Now, we're thankful. You're on the mend. You're an invaluable treasure to this organization, evidenced by the relationships, long-standing, and we're happy for your good recovery. Continued prayers for you. I wanted to underscore what Pastor Hanbury said about membership. The life of this organization is in the enthusiasm of our members. I was riding with my son and Sarah here from Atlanta, and I recall many childhood memories of being here and thinking this was the most boring day in the year. We had a problem with drugs back then. We were drugged to Bethel Lutheran Church. We were drugged to the Labor Day event and all these family reunions. But there's something about having that DNA in your memory that you realize that it was important for you to be by your grandmother's side, by the side of your great uncle Walt Howard and grandmother Seckinger. And something happens in the life of a child when they experience the sound of a mighty fortress in this sanctuary. You can't get it out of your memory. And it has a way of becoming a compass for your future. And you cherish it increasingly as you grow older. I want to simply say thank you on behalf of the network in Atlanta. We have about 53 active members, and they're very active. We had Consul General Christoph Sander of Germany as our guest in February, and we even allowed some German beer near the premises of a Lutheran church. Imagine that. We hope to have the Austrian Consul General in February, but the reality is Atlanta is a place now, over 5 million people. There are many Salzburgers from Effingham and environs that have moved to Atlanta. So help us identify them. Help them become connected with that community there in Atlanta. And we bring you greetings from the folks up in Atlanta, many of whom aren't able often to get down here, but a lot of them are here today. And thank you for the continued faithfulness of Gary and Henry, members of the board here. Our organization exists for the sole purpose of supporting this organization. We're honored to do that.
Now, I want to summarize all of these categories of things that I would encourage you to pick a project and give something to help. The Atlanta chapter bought some tickets for people to have this organization help the whole society put on this 280th celebration. So, and your members of the board took a challenge. They funded money. We're trying to develop our budgets now, so you're going to hear more about that over the next year of how we're going to come to grips with what it takes to operate this place, to keep it up to date, and to move forward. These things that we're hearing today, like a time capsule, it's important. It's unbelievable opportunity for us to do great things and to move forward. But enough of that. What I'd like to do is recognize now all of the past presidents of the society that are here today. Would you stand, please? And introduce yourself. Now I'm going to read 4 names. I'd like for them to come forward, please. Keith Ziegler, Vince Exley, Janice Moody, Francis Hutto. This is in special recognition for their service to the board and as an officer, and in many other ways that we can just never express. So it's a very small symbol, but I hope they accept it in the fervor that it's meant. Okay. You're not sick, right? Okay. Keith is the only one that somehow escaped this thing, I think. But Francis, with his medical hurdles, and Vince also successfully going forward. We really need to keep you guys in tune and want your participation in everything going forward in any way you can. You guys are jewels. Keith, you also. Keith, the way this works, just to take 1 second, as we elect our new president, which is last time was Vince, the previous president remains with the board, so we have continuity. So in this condition it happened, which was Vince's, both Keith and Vince are now going to be here until the next president is elected. Due to unforeseen circumstances, and I appreciate everything and all their wisdom and whatever they can help with. So I'd like to give everyone to give them a hand of applause for their work.
I have a reputation of saying too much. For one time in my life, I am lost for words. But thank you very much. I'm very honored, and I appreciate very much this recognition.
I'm the son of Martha Ziegler, so I'm never lost for words. I would like to thank everybody. You can't do this without the help from the board and everybody else who pitches in to make Landing Day and Labor Day a success. And I thank you all. Appreciate it.
Been to my country, but I'm here already. But very surprised and very appreciative. Thank you.
And next is, in a way, our most important thing. I'm going to end the meeting now as an adjournment, but we're going to sing the Exile song first. Then I want all of the special groups, the Germans, all the UGs, to come forward because we're going to take some pictures for this memorable occasion. Yes.